From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for coming. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to talk with Guillermo Klein, pianist, composer, arranger, and band leader, whose group will be performing in about 75 minutes. And we have an opportunity to talk a little bit about him and his music. So, why don't we begin? You grew up in Buenos Aires. What part of the city?
You know, the Obelisco, 5 blocks away, very center of Buenos Aires.
Was yours a musical family?
Not really. My dad likes to sing, you know, but he's not a music. He likes to sing, but no, yeah.
Was there a piano in the house?
They got me one. When I was 12, they got me a piano. They started with a melodica flute. Well, first with a flute, then with a melodica flute, then with an organ, and then with a piano. And I still have that piano in Buenos Aires.
So what drew you to music in the first place, and to jazz in particular?
It's hard to say what drove me to music, because I feel that I've always been a musician since I remember, you know. So I guess when I was a kid, I was playing the songs, and any song I hear, I could play in the flute, and since I remember, you know, and then I started playing in school. I started playing the church in the school, the organ, and so it just was there, you know. It was there.
And do you play, at the time, were you playing everything, or were you concentrating on sacred music, or popular music, or folk music?
No, I was playing whatever, you know, I hear the SWAT theme on TV and I play it. You know, we went to see this movie that they have the Bolero de Ravel, this movie, Les Saints et les Autres, the Claude Lelouch, the really old movie, and I remember playing that melody. Whatever was around, you know, it's just in the church, at school, I was playing, instead of, when we went to mass at school, instead of sitting with my ¿cómo se dice? My students, my peers, I will take the harmonium and play those melodies. But I wasn't studying music, you know. It's just, I really was, my parents forced me. They sent me to conservatory to study, but I didn't get that.
What does that mean, you didn't get that?
Because unfortunately, I didn't get a teacher that will teach me music. They were just teaching me to read music, and I didn't hook with that, you know. So it took me a really long time until I went to the States. I came here, actually.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between learning to read music and learning music?
Yeah. It's like when you read music, when you read music and you are not a versatile musician, when you're not really, you know, it's just like it comes through your eyes, you know. It's just like you guides and you press, and you like basically matching what you see where it is. It's a very hard thing to learn, actually, or to teach. And to play music, you know, music comes, you hear the music, you know, and then you try to play back what you hear. And if you get into it, and then you do a while, you start hearing from inside, you know, and you try to put out what you hear from inside. So reading, it's another level of mastering the language, you know. As I grew up, I needed to read music because there was some music that I couldn't, Debussy and like Stravinsky, I couldn't really, I was hearing, trying to play what I was listening, but it was amazing, you know. And so just the desire for music itself, in my case, made me go to that aspect of music, to reading music. But I had a teacher when I was like 15 that was a really great musician, a great teacher, and he would play some Mozart sonatas and teach me about melody and Bach chorales and Bach fugues, and just open the page and just like do that, and I just couldn't believe it. You know? It's like, how can you do that? You know, and it's like, and he was saying, for me, it's like reading the newspaper, you know, and that I never had that facilidad, that easiness to, and so that's basically the difference. And I guess you have to be lucky enough to get somebody to teach you how to read and how to listen at the same time, to activate two senses, you know, visual and orally. And now I'm teaching, and I'm trying to put that, you know, when sometimes good teachers are bad students,
Yeah.
you know, and my case is like I try to give what I didn't get, you know.
What do you think makes a good teacher,
What makes a good teacher?
now that you are a teacher?
The desire to share some experience, you know. That's a good question. I don't know if I'm a good teacher or not, but I really like it, you know. I really like it. I really like to see how you give something and it just transforms. And
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I can give you an example. I teach composition, no? Just by accident, and that's a good thing. Like it just happened, you know. And they call me from a place. Would you like to teach? You find that you like, and an example is like, for example, write a melody. Let's do a melody. I say, wow, what is a melody? You know, like the kids. Say, well, just sing one idea, and then respond. What response that idea will have. And sometimes just the fact of seeing mainly the kids, you know, doing that and hearing that it sounds good, and they remember it, and they just keep going. That's just with little tools. And
How old are your students?
range from kids to old 50. So it's like a lot. I teach at a university in San Sebastian, and sometimes I get kids in my house, and so a very wide range, very well versatile musicians and very beginners, but now all of them musicians, like truly musicians, you know. The ones that are not musicians, they don't last, you know.
In 1990, you left Buenos Aires, moved to Boston, Massachusetts, to attend the Berklee College of Music. Tell me, what did they teach you, or what did you learn from that experience?
I always be grateful that I went to Berkeley, because I first of all, just to get the fact of, you go to a place that is 3,000 musicians, you know, and to see where you stand, you know. And I met, for example, Rich Hernand, who's playing with me tonight, and Matt Pavolka. We met at Berkeley, you know. And first of all, the ambiente, you know, of a lot of musicians into it, you know. That's the first thing that I got in Berkeley.
A sense of community?
Yeah. And a real search for digging into and individuality at the same time. You know, we were learning the same things, but everybody was trying to put out what they have, you know. And also I got to know jazz music, you know, because before that I was totally not aware or acquainted with. For me, jazz music was like Dixieland or things I would hear. You know, I was totally new to jazz music. I didn't even know who Wayne Shorter was, you know. It's just
But you do now.
oh man, you know, I was in Berkeley and I wrote this song and Igor Kola, trumpet player, said, this sounds like Wayne. I was like, who? Wayne. Never heard. And he gave me Speak No Evil. And I just like couldn't believe it. And that took me to Milton Nascimento, you know, like a native dancer. And then, you know, Herbie Hancock, and they just like start. My teacher, this guy I was telling you, Sergio Walpa is his name, he passed away very young, so I couldn't keep sharing experiences with him, but he told me to go to the States. He said, man, you should like get acquainted with jazz music, because I will write songs, and I play for him, and I didn't have them finished, so I would just end them every time differently. It was a type of jazz thing, you know, like you compose in the moment, and you said, go for it, go, you know. And that's what took me there. And Berkeley, I met Herb Pomeroy, you know. You heard, of course.
Herb Pomeroy, I think many people
Herb
in the
Pomeroy,
audience know him.
Yeah. And
For those who don't know him, tell us very briefly, who was Herb Pomeroy?
Herb Pomeroy is basically like, well, he was a teacher in Berkeley that had a concert band. Like he led the big band of Berkeley, and he was teaching these 3 courses. One was called Land Writing Techniques, then the music of Duke Ellington, and then a jazz composition seminar. And he was leading this big band, and thanks to that, I started writing for big band, because I would go to his rehearsals. It was like getting into a zone, you know, like the whole band was there, and he was like conducting. He was like, you, Mark, trumpet 3, instead of B flat, play B natural. That just felt like heaven, you know, just like hearing every chord, and just they put an arrangement that sounds horrible, and in half an hour it would sound like a flower, you know. It's just so it was just truly somebody, you know. And on top of that, a magnificent person, no? So I studied with him. I told him, I want to study with you. So you have to write a big band arrangement. So I wrote Nefertiti, actually. I got into Wayne's music, and I got into his class, and he told me, like, I always wanted to write for orchestra, you know. Since a kid, I liked a lot, thanks to this other teacher. I liked Mozart. I was really into Stravinsky and Debussy, because I really was into that. So the orchestra itself was very appealing. So I was in Berkeley, I said, orchestra, big band, same thing. So I started writing for big band, and thanks to Herb too, like he was seeing that I was writing some stuff that wasn't done generally, you know, like all these grooves, 6/8, and all these melodies that would sound more like Astor, Piazzolla, and like all this weird mix, and he always encouraged that, like, as long as the parts are clear, go for it, you know. And that's what Berkeley gave me. Amazing musician friends, a guy like Herb.
So you leave Berkeley in about 1993,
Yeah.
and you choose to go to New York.
Yeah.
How did you make that decision, and how easy or difficult was it to get established in the city?
Well, I was actually, I remember the day, I finished Berkeley, I had this big band that I was playing. I wrote enough arrangements that we have music enough for a gig. So we started getting gigs. We play at some places in Boston, like Scholars. But I felt like in Boston, I wasn't feeling at home, you know, and for me, that's very important, you know. So I said,
Can you say what that means?
I wasn't feeling like I was, like, you know, when you feel the earth and you like, it's like the roots of your feet, this is my city, this is my place, you know, I belong here. I just didn't feel it. Maybe because I was in Berkeley, I've been a student for a couple of years, 3 years. I finished the school and I was like, what am I gonna do here, you know? It's just play a gig every 2 months and then what, you know? And I didn't even think about teaching music. That was totally out of, I didn't even like, get a day job or get what, you know? So I'm gonna go back to Argentina. But at the same time, man, I had this big band that sounds really good, and everybody is into playing. So Richard told me, why don't you go to New York? I said, yeah, why? You know? It's like, why should I go to New York, you know? Man, you know, you have to go to New York. And I was like thinking about it, and Jorge Rossi, came by and said, man, I need a sublet. Next week I'm leaving, I'm gonna have a kid. So that, it was like that. Boom, in a week I was in his apartment in Brooklyn for 6 months. And in his apartment, it was like, Kurt Rosenwinkel was in this room. I was in this room. Upstairs was Chris Chick, Seamus Blake. Down there was Dan Reeser and Jesse Murphy. And we just jammed. It was just like great, you know. It was more like another state after Berkeley, you know, but in New York, you know. So that was my experience, you know. A lot of loneliness at the beginning because I had no gigs. I just had nothing, you know. It was a very cheap rent, but I said, what am I gonna do? Just write. Just had some time to write and write. Play with Chris. We got very close friends with Seamus. So it wasn't that dramatic, you know. It became dramatic when my parents said, that's it. You know? There's no more support, you know. Yeah, you know, that was dramatic, you know. Because I was, after Jorge came back, I said, man, you have to get your place. I started walking, and by sheer, like coincidence, by luck, I got a place in Grove Street, which is 7th Avenue and Christopher Street, more or less. I got that place. It was kind of cheap, actually, and boom, Smalls opened. Go to talk to the owner. Yeah, I have a big band. Bring them on. So I started playing every Sunday there. It's just like that, really fast, you know. I moved in February, and by October I was just playing every Sunday there.
I want to ask you about the residency that you had at this club called Smalls. How important was Smalls in your development as a composer, as a band leader?
It was fundamental, no? Fundamental. It was like a milestone. You translate that?
Yeah, fundamental.
Yeah. Because the thing I like of Smalls, and in general myself, is like there was no pressure. There was no bullshit with talking with. There's no bullshit from the owner, from the people. There was just do your thing, you know. And I was doing my thing. The next day I go there, Kurt was doing his thing. The next day I go there, Danilo Perez was there, Brad was there. So it just felt like a community. It really felt like a community, and it was a nice way to like go forward. To like I have this, like I remember talking with Kurt and like, man, I like that chord that you use. I use it too, and then I hear his music, and he really inspired me, and the fact of having every Sunday, you know, it's just I will get really into it, you know, and the club itself start getting a reputation, and then the times come, and a lot of people out of the loop of our community start coming there, and so it was very, very important, and.
But you were not making a lot of money working at a club like Smalls.
No, we will make like $40 each. And the guys, 6 of them will come from Boston because they were still living in Boston. Take a car, drive 4 hours, play a Sunday night gig, and come back to Boston.
So that's dedication.
Yeah,
that's commitment.
Yeah, among them was Luciana Souza in those cars. You know, Richard, Mark Miralta, Juan Cruz Urquiza.
So these people, by the way, were you calling this band Los Guachos?
Not yet. No, it was
this
called
is before.
Big Van.
Big Band.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little word game, you know. Big band. You know, we don't say V, we say B. So it's just, I did at school that name, you know. I had to put a name. I had a concert at school, my senior recital. Thanks to the senior recital, I did a big band actually because so we were playing. We were 17 people, 17, fitting at Smalls. If you've been there, you know what I mean. sometimes we'll be like 3 people in the audience. We're like 17 this side and 3 people like this, you know, because we're like, wow, you know.
So when did the first recording, and this is another thing I meant to ask. I mentioned this group, Los Guachos.
Yeah.
And there are at least three recordings by this group. But the first, did it ever come out?
No.
It was made for Candid, but it never came out. Why not?
When we were playing at Smalls, and that's when if you're smart, you know, you open eyes and you see a little bit how it works, the system. You keep doing your thing, but some stuff comes to you. And the New York Times came and they wrote like a great review, like one of the best experiments. And so a lot of people started coming to the club, you know, which is great. So among the people from Candid Records came, he heard it. We were playing an arrangement of Cantaloupe Island that I did. That was great. That was really fun. I did for school, among other things. And so he said, I want you to record 5 records for me. I said, great. So without even like thinking about it too much, I signed the contract. And we already had recorded like a demo in 6 hours. It's called Big Van, actually. They released it. He wanted that record plus 4 more. So he take that record, and then I said, great. So after we keep playing with the Big Van, I started feeling really heavy. We're 17 people. Out of the 17 people, I don't need 3 trombones. I just got to that point. I don't need 4 trumpets. Man, my ear rings. You know, it's facts, you know, and I want to play the piano. I wasn't playing the piano, I was just like this, conducting, you know, which was great. But then they knew the music so much that I was like a painting there, like that, you know. So all that, and I wanted to sing too, you know. I have some melodies, and I've been singing since I'm a kid, and with this big band, 17 people, there was no room for me to sing. A lot of things boiling, you know. So we got into be 11 instead of 17, with the addition of Jeff Ballard. That was 95. So that's why it was some of the same music with less people and more getting deeper, you know, getting deeper into what it's all about, you know, what makes me feel alive, and I want you to play like you mean it, you know, stuff like that, and we get like really intense, and we do Guachos 1. I give the record to Mr. Bates, and he was like, "What have you done?" He said. That's what he said. "What have you done, man? I can't sell this to anyone. I'm not gonna release this, man. This is too out. This is far out, far out." That's why he never released it. But we still play some of that music. El Espejo, all these songs I wrote at that time, we still play them, and they're very joyful and great music. So
I've been meaning to ask, when you write, you know, as a composer, do you write with specific people in mind, the specific soloists in your band, or the specific personalities? Do you write for these people?
Yeah, definitely. You know, if writing music is what I do, you know, that's what I do. I'm a writer. I'm a musical writer. So I feel many different ways. You know, one day I feel like writing something very abstract. You know, someday I see Jorge playing it. You know, I hear him, like some stuff we're gonna play tonight. Some days I hear Richard playing this melody, and if somebody else plays this melody, it's not gonna be that good. You know, because I hear it that way. It's kind of like even like indulgence, you say? Like I want to hear what I hear, no? So yeah, definitely I hear them. That's what I play with them, you know. And if I play with other ones, it sounds different, and it's a very demanding thing to write for the people you play with, because when you play with other people, it just sounds very different, you know. But that doesn't take the fact that you can write something that could be played by anyone. That happens too, you know. I've done some music that I feel I did it just for the sound of it, and anybody can play, you know?
We were talking earlier tonight, and you mentioned that you've written something for this evening's performance.
Yeah, yeah.
For this room, this Coolidge Auditorium. Why don't you talk a little bit about this piece, and not just the piece, but what we should be listening for when we hear this piece?
Sure. Well, you know, I feel like I am among friends, you know? It's like I get a call to play here, which is very out of the ordinary for me. You know, it's like I'm in Barcelona with my wife, my 2 kids. I come to States, you know, to play in New York, which I feel, you know, I've been there 7 years, so it's an amazing thing. So one day I was playing this B flat major scale on the piano, and it just sounded so good, you know. It really did sound good, you know. So why I don't write something like this? So I kept playing it. I said, oh, we will have 2 pianos and guitar. So why don't I start thinking of them and let the sound resonate? Miguel told me this sounds really good. Miguel Zenon, you know. And the resonation of the room, and just basically did that. A very simple, very, very, very simple piece with no high expectations about it. You know, it's like, I want to experience, actually we sound check with that, and it just sounded really good. And it's called Solar Return, you know? It's just like a reaffirmation of the tonal center, like major scales, and it might sound like what some people call New Age stuff.
What do you call it?
I call it a reaffirmation of tonal center. That's what I say to my friends, you know. And it's interesting, it's interesting when you start playing and you just play what's written, when it comes from your eyes, it's like mechanical stuff. When your eyes start like, and you get into it, it just sounds much better. It's just the same scale. It just means totally different stuff, you know. And that's one thing that I love of music, is just how the same sound you can make, it could be totally meaningless or totally meaningful. It's the same scale, you know.
When you write a new piece and you hand it out to the band, do you give them specific kinds of instruction, or do you wait to hear how they interpret it?
Depends. Sometimes I just hand the music without saying anything, just for the fact of see how they. And sometimes before we play, the title, I explain a lot of things with the titles, you know. This one called Impresión de Bienestar. It's like an impression of wellness, of well-being, no? So I explain a lot what I feel about it. Like, I say, well, it's about giving an impression that you're okay, but you're not okay. So I put the part, and they just get it, what it's all about, you know. So it's a lot of lateral thinking sometimes with the titles, you know.
So when you are writing or arranging, are you inclined to edit your work, or to edit, or when you are done, you are finished, that's the piece?
Oh man, I think I've done only 2 or 3 songs in my life that I feel like it's done.
Really?
2 or 3, yeah.
So it's constantly changing or evolving based on what?
Or abandoned.
Or abandoned?
Yeah. Oh, that's me. No, I'm sorry. That's me. Yeah, abandoned. Yeah, I heard once Beethoven said that, and I was like, yeah. Like, I don't finish my pieces, I abandon them. It's great. That just really makes sense, you know. It's like, there's few pieces that you feel that they are perfect, you know. We're going to play one of them today, just one.
Which one?
You're going to hear the concert. It's a very simple song. It's like a 32-bar song. It's called Miula. It's just like a very simple, but it feels like I will never change a note of it because it's just done, you know. But some other pieces I always could like add here and there, But when they are satisfactory, I prefer to go forward and to go to some other place, you know. There's nothing more boring than getting your own stuff and look at it and see what I can improve. It's just really, really dense, you know. I've done that and no me gusta.
Now might be a good time to open it up for any of your questions. I have more, but I want to get people involved in this conversation. So if anybody has a question for Guillermo Klein, now would be a good time to ask. Yes? No? Okay, while you think about this, while you contemplate, I'll ask another. How did you learn to improvise?
But just writing, playing, trying to write music, playing. I never improvised and learned to improvise as a soloist. I got that question recently. But you're not a soloist. No, I never. I learned to improvise through sitting at the piano and inventing momentaneous songs. Like, I'm gonna write a song. Never got into the chops of like, which is great.
Did you transcribe solos?
Yeah, actually, you know when I started transcribing solos? When I had started teaching, for respect, you know? You know, Charlie Parker, and transcribe a lot of Charlie Parker, a lot of culture, but just for respect and to understand what they do instead of getting it from a book, but not for playing.
So what do you learn when you transcribe someone's solo? What do you learn about their creativity or the choices that they make?
That's a good question. It's like you see the personality, what the musician is looking for when you get inside, because and once you transcribe, it's like you're really doing it, you know, you're really playing with them. For example, with Charlie Parker, you feel that he has cells, like Stravinsky would, cells.
Cells.
Yeah, cellular writing. I have a lot of that too. Bach had that a lot, cellular writing. Like one cell that repeats, mutates, and goes to different keys, but they're cells, you know. Ornette Coleman, no, he's like a bird, man. It's just like an amazing spirit that flies and keeps going. Wayne, that's what I learned, you know. And I learned to respect and get really, because one thing is to listen and think about stuff, and one thing is to like really like capture that. And you know, we were talking before about Stravinsky, and one thing is to listen symphony of Psalms, and the other thing is to like get inside that and see who wrote that and why they choose those notes and that chord and stuff.
Do you ever talk to other composers about what you do, about the challenges you face, about how they arrive at their own solutions?
Yeah.
To exchange information?
Yeah.
Like who? Who do you talk to?
Well, I have a really close friend, is Reed Anderson, Jorge Rossi.
From the Bad Plus.
Bad
yes.
Plus, yeah, he's a great friend of mine. With Jeff Ballard, we talk, we don't really like talk like we are talking, but we talk like, man, I'm having a hard time with this piece, and I'm just repeating myself, and oh man, I found this chord, or I found this F and D at the same time, like concepts or ideas that we're working on, and we share the music, and we hear some music together, and comment. You see, Elvin has this 8-bar phrases stuff. Check it out. Like we are into it, you know. I have good friends in that respect, you know.
I know you've mentioned Stravinsky several times so far, just in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I also know that you have worked on an arrangement of Symphony of Psalms.
Yeah.
What draws you to that piece? What is it you hear in Stravinsky in that piece?
Well, what draws me into that was like I heard the whole piece, and at the very end, I don't know if you're familiar with that piece, but at the very end is like a song. It's just a song that sounds amazing. Sounds like kind of blue, like Bill Evans, you know, and Gershwin, and these things I never heard. And I also felt like that harmony, I had it on me, and I wanted to know what was, you know. So I got into the last song, and I got like 10 different versions, and then I got the score, and then from the last song to the second song, and then like back to the top, you know. So I got the whole thing, you know, because it just, the last song was the same as the first song in a different mode, and the second song, it happens to be a fugue, and then a double fugue. Just start getting inside, and you just like get immersed on it, you know. I know a lot of people like does that with hundreds of pieces, you know. Like we were talking about reading. For me, it takes months, hard work of months to understand one piece like that. Yeah, but I understand it, you know. I prefer one well done, you know.
If Stravinsky were here today, what would you like to talk with him about?
Not music, actually. Really not. That's another thing, you know. I met some amazing musicians, and I get their music from what they do, you know. You know, from what they do.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like I was saying before, you know, like Wayne. He wouldn't give me music when he talks to me, and I met him too, and we say hi. It was great. What an honor. And just like, I don't know. It's just if we get into the music, I hope it happens after a while. You know, like maybe some talking about the weather or talking about like totally abstract stuff. Sometimes it's much musical than concepts of music talking. You know.
Here's another chance for anybody in the room. Yes, there's a question right there.
I've heard a lot about your musical adventures in the United States. Do you have like a musical community in South America as well?
Yeah.
And in Barcelona.
Sí, sí. No, pero in Argentina I have. Mira, for tonight's performance, this Richard Mann, who plays percussion and trumpet, he came from Argentina for this concert. It's like my brother, my musical brother. Every time I can, I go to Buenos Aires to play, and I'm very linked to Buenos Aires. I don't know if the Argentino here, but all the Argentines, we are very linked, even though we are travelers, but we're very linked. Every time we can, we go back, you know. And definitely I play music a lot there, and yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance in just a moment, but talking about the community in Argentina, I'm curious how you integrate your cultural heritage into your music. Is it something conscious, or is it just who you are?
Yeah. But who you are could be something conscious too.
Are you conscious of who you are?
Who knows, you know? Who knows what's conscious, huh? I don't know, man. I at this point, you know, one thing is today, and one thing was when I was in Berkeley. I was 21, and I played this groove, and it sounded like 6/8, and you know, it's just. One thing that I know that I'm conscious of is it sounds good, sounds real, or sounds bad. You know, that's I'm very conscious of that. Do I want to work on this, or I don't want to work on this, even though it's my chacarera thing, or even though it's like a blues for Alice, you know? I'm very conscious of that. I'm getting into like a energy saver, you know, trying to focus really in what I get for, you know, that I'm conscious of that, you know.
Okay, we have a question right here.
Sure. You mentioned getting the invitation to play here at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and you also said that you had taken a class specifically on the compositions of Duke Ellington. What connections do you make, both before you ever received that invitation, when you got that invitation, and now that you're preparing it here for the concert with Washington, D.C., and your music and music in general?
Well, you mentioned Duke Ellington. I'm a fan of Duke, you know, thanks to her. I'm a true fan. Like 2 weeks ago, I was with my daughter playing memory game, watching a DVD of Duke playing in Amsterdam. And I feel like he's my friend, you know, like, it sounds bizarre what I say, but like a musical master, and he's from Washington, actually, you know?
Yeah, do you make that association of Duke Ellington and Washington, D.C., or does that not figure into your calculation of, wow, I get to play in
Yeah.
D.C., that's where Duke's from? Does that come into your mind at all?
Now. Yeah. This is. I transcribe Duke, you know, like just to give a little trivia thing. Like when I was in Berkeley, you know, you hear some big bands and then you hear some Duke stuff, and it just blows your mind. And why this chord sounds this way? You know why? So I get a tape. That's when we talk about transcribing. You know, that's the type of things I transcribe. Try to get this. Don't get around much anymore. You know. Try to transcribe this chord, and I would spend the whole night with one chord. Beep, beep, the whole night. I was like 20, 21. Then I basically transcribe and I play an arrangement with that chord, you know. Well, now I can transcribe maybe an arrangement in like a day, you know. But because it's on me, it's that night that I spent the whole night, it just got into me. And, you know, my music doesn't sound like Duke at all, you know. But I maybe have some diminished voicings here and there that he gave me, you know, like, or some concept of groove, or who knows, you know. That's another thing, like, that I want to say. It's also like we don't study sometimes to get better, you know. Or to show off, or like we were talking about that, like, because we like, you know, and who knows what use is going to happen, what use is going to have, you know. But then it all comes around, you know. It all comes around. Things you do with well, that's it.
What does Washington, D.C. mean to you, playing in Washington, D.C., and also just the city in general? What impressions do you have of the city, and what is it going to be like to play here?
Mira, I came from New York in a car, I got to a hotel, and I just got here, you know. The impression I have is like, you know, I just want to play, you know, and from the city itself, not yet. No.
Have you not yet had a chance to visit and explore?
I'd like to give somebody else a chance. You have a question, yes?
What are you listening to now, man?
What am I listening to?
What gets you excited right now? Who are you listening to?
Well, I was very, very into Messiaen lately, and I like Messiaen music a lot.
Why?
It's like well, harmonically, peacefully. It just has it gives you a sense of transcendental. It just really, you can be there, you know. You can be there. I've been listening to that, like as a question. I put that on my record player, but
When you drove down from New York, the whole band came down together. What were you listening to in the
radio.
car?
Radio.
Oh, the radio.
Sí. No, not CDs. Man, we've been rehearsing a lot, you know. From morning to night, you know. So, time to chill is important too.
Yes. Who else has a question?
The notes that tango was influenced early on, does that continue, or are there other artists in tango that you're interested in?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you think about the blues, you know, you think of a feeling of, the tango is the same for me. Tango is a state of mind, you know. Tango is a sensation, a feeling. You can hear some tango on the stuff I do that it doesn't have the tango rhythm, or doesn't have the rubato stuff, but for me it's tango, no? So it's on me, and it's inside, and I don't dare to say I'm a tango musician. I just never say that, because it's again, we were talking about styles and stuff, you know, I just don't. But tango, for me, is a state of a sensation, you know, like has to do with nostalgia, ¿viste? Has to do with like lost love, with change, with that's kind of tango for me, and we have it from Piazzolla. Piazzolla is Gardel, the way he sings, it's on me, But, yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you a question about your recordings. I noticed that they don't really have liner notes, mostly photographs. Is there a reason? Are you trying to be enigmatic?
Oh, wow. Yeah, sure. The first Guachos one that never came out, it had liner notes, actually. But, sometimes you know why? That's a good thing, because I did this CD that I never saw the art, and it comes to me, well, really, I open the CD and it's all this Guillermo Klein and all this, like, it's not a showcase, man, For me, it's just, this is my stuff, this is my music, If you have the CD, you just listen to the music. That's how I felt then. And that's why maybe I have nothing to say more than this, It felt like a thing that was added to the thing, And I like to have good pictures, good letters, good art, because nowadays, to get a CD is very meaningful. You can get on iTunes 2 or 3 songs, just somebody that gets your CD. It has to have a nice art, a nice welcoming thing to look, meanwhile you listen. That, yes, I care about that.
Mm-hmm. We have time for maybe one last question. Yes?
You mentioned something of being influenced by chacareras, and I was wondering, they're basically from the country, from Argentina. What is it that you extract from them? What does it bring to your music?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mira, chacarera, for me, what it gave me is like, there's 2 rhythms at once. It's in 3/4 and 6/8. This is the 3 beats, and this is the 2 6/8 beats. And these 2 things go together. That's what really got me, beyond being chacarera, my country and stuff like that. And then I realized in Ghana, they do the same thing, and then I realized in Venezuela, le llaman joropo. It's just a groove that humanity has, It's just, that rhythm thing. We're going to play some of that tonight with all these metrical modulations, and that, hope it sounds good.
Now, I heard you talking earlier about how you spent a day transcribing an Ellington chord. And I was having fun imagining a young musician trying to do the same with your music.
Oh.
And what would you say to that young musician?
I don't know. What? About what? About transcribing?
About your music.
Oh, yo qué sé. No sé. If you like it, do it. Go ahead, If you like it, if you really like it, go ahead. I ain't gonna tell you that I'm not good. I'm not gonna tell you that I'm good. If you just believe in yourself, Just if you do whatever you feel. Like I've been told that a lot, And I say the same.
So I'll close by asking, in aesthetic terms, how would you measure success?
To be happy yourself with what you do, that's success. And I measure success beyond music just to be healthy, man, Nowadays, I have so many friends that are sick, and that's success, man, to lead a healthy life mentally and in your body, and if you feel happy about what you do, that's success. That's what I feel about it, yeah.
Well, we wish you continued health and continued success. We're looking forward to the concert tonight. Help me thank our guests.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.